Welcome back. Today, we are completely shattering everything you thought you knew about starting a business. Society constantly drills into us that entrepreneurship is inherently risky, right? That you gotta bet the farm, max out your credit cards, and leap without a net. Well, what if I told you the greatest entrepreneurs in history actually do the exact opposite? In this explainer, we're unpacking the proven zero-risk playbook for quitting your 9 to 5 in exactly 9 months, and we're drawing this straight from the brilliant mental models of billionaire investor Mohnish Pabrai. To really wrap our heads around this risk minimization mindset, let's look at a wild piece of history. How exactly did Richard Branson start Virgin Atlantic with absolutely zero capital? No massive venture capital fund, no crazy loans. Well, he literally called directory assistants, got the main switchboard for Boeing, and just relentlessly called them until he got through to their leasing department. He actually convinced them to lease him a used 747 they just had sitting around. Then he sold the airline tickets 4 months in advance, paid for the fuel 30 days after the plane landed, and paid the plane's lease using the ticket revenue. He put absolutely zero of his own money on the line. It's genius. And that perfectly tees up our foundational mental model for today, perfectly captured by Mohnish Pabrai. He flat out reveals that society lies to us about risk. True entrepreneurs engineer situations where, as he puts it, heads I win, tails I don't lose much. They literally rig the board so that if they win massive, and if they lose basically nothing. He calls this concept job.The. It's a framework for building immense wealth without ever rolling the dice on your actual livelihood. Now, speaking of zero-risk decisions with a massive upside, check this out. 53% of you watching right now aren't actually subscribed yet, so hit that subscribe button right now. It costs you absolutely $0, but it compounds your knowledge week after week. All right, let's get into step 1 of the playbook. Step 1, the art of business cloning. Because guess what? You really don't need an original idea. We're constantly fed this innovator myth, this heavy pressure that you have to invent something the world has literally never seen before. But let's contrast that myth with the cloner reality. You think Microsoft is a pure innovator? Bill Gates cloned Word from WordPerfect, Excel from Lotus, and Bing from Google. What about Walmart? Sam Walton freely admitted he had zero original ideas. He just intensely copied Sears and Kmart. Starbucks? Howard Schultz went to Italy, looked at their cafe culture, and literally just cloned it for the US market. The crucial takeaway here is that, for some reason, humans oddly look down on copying, like it's cheating or something. But simply tweaking an existing, proven business model instantly removes the single biggest risk of starting any business, which is market demand. You already know for a fact that people want this product. By cloning something that works, maybe bringing it to a new geographical location or just slightly improving the customer service, you are immediately 90% ahead of the rest of humanity. Moving to step 2. Reallocating your Lego blocks. Or, in other words, how to actually find the time to do this. So, you've got your cloned idea, but don't you dare quit your day job just yet. Remember, we are minimizing risk here, and right now, someone else is paying your rent. So, to find the time to build this, I want you to imagine your week is made up of Lego blocks, totaling 168 hours. You've got 56 hours locked in for sleep. Don't touch those, you need them. You've got 40 hours for your 9 to 5 job, and let's say about 28 hours for life essentials and commuting. But look at that massive 44-hour slice of pure free time. That's the time you're probably spending binge-watching Netflix, scrolling through social media, or just hanging out. Here is the absolute master hack for this transition plan. To build your business safely, you need to keep your 9 to 5 effort just above firing level. Seriously, you don't try to be employee of the month anymore. You do exactly enough to keep that paycheck flowing. Then you aggressively trade those leisure hours for super exciting startup blocks. You pour those 44 hours entirely into your business. But here is the secret sauce. Building your business needs to become way more fun than watching TV. As Pabrai says, you have to be getting your internal music out into the world. If working on your startup isn't more exciting than your downtime, you are probably building the wrong business. Step 3. Rapid prototyping with customers. Basically, let them build it for you. Okay, so you've found the time, you've got your cloned concept, now you need to validate your product so it is essentially guaranteed to sell. This brings us to a brilliant concept we call the slide 10 strategy. Early in his career, Pabrai was pitching an IT services deck to a massive bank in Chicago. He had 11 slides covering 7 entirely different services. He gets to slide 10, gives his pitch, and moves to slide 11. Well, the bank executive instantly stopped him and said, "Go back to slide 10 and do not change the slide. I have zero interest in any other slide." That one single slide represented an extreme, agonizing pain point for that specific customer. So what did Pabrai do? He literally threw out the rest of the presentation, blew slide 10 up into a massive 20-slide deck, and built his entire early business around that one severe pain point. The huge lesson here: do not build your product in an ivory tower. Present a prototype, listen intensely to the feedback, trash what they don't care about, and let the customer build the actual product for you. Step 4, the high-volume sales engine. How to bypass those corporate gatekeepers. All right, so now you have a heavily validated product that you know for a fact solves a painful problem. But how do you actually sell it when you're a startup with literally a $0 marketing budget? You build a high-volume sales outreach system. Pabrai used this brilliant zero-cost mathematical system. First, he sent 200 physical letters a week to senior executives. And to trick the executive assistants who usually just toss out junk mail, he used mail merge to customize the letters with shortened familiar names. So if the guy's name was David, the letter started with "Dear Dave," making the assistant assume they were old friends. Then, step 2, he'd wait exactly 1 week. Step 3, he called all 200 prospects. Boom, now they're in the funnel. Finally, step 4, if they didn't answer, he just doubled the spacing between follow-ups. So he'd call 2 weeks later, then 4 weeks, then 8 weeks, endlessly, until they either bought the product or explicitly told him to get lost. It is a sheer, ruthless mathematical numbers game that requires absolutely $0, just resilience and your free time. Step 5, the 9-to-5 exit plan. It is finally time to make the jump. Okay, so you're consistently putting in the hours, you've rapidly prototyped with real customers, and you have this high-volume sales engine just churning. The ultimate question is, when do you actually pull the plug and quit your job? Well, according to this playbook, if you're executing correctly, the magic number is exactly 9 months. It took Pabrai exactly 9 months using this aggressive but zero-capital system to become entirely cash flow positive. He didn't jump ship based on some pipe dream or a hopeful revenue projection. He only jumped ship when his startup was producing enough actual real cash to replace his corporate income. And here is the absolute most brilliant part of the zero-risk mindset. When Pabrai finally quit, his boss was incredibly confused. Remember how Pabrai was purposely coasting just above firing level? Well, his bosses definitely noticed the dip in performance, but he was still just good enough that they couldn't actually justify firing him. So when he handed in his notice, they were so desperate to keep him that they literally said, "Hey, when your business fails, please come back. We will give you a promotion and more money." I mean, talk about the ultimate safety net. His entrepreneurial leap was quite literally a zero-risk bet. If he won, he had a multi-million-dollar business. If he lost, well, he just got his old job back with a raise. Knowing that the path to true financial freedom doesn't actually require taking terrifying, catastrophic risks. Knowing that it's really just a matter of cloning a proven concept, listening to your customers, running a mathematical sales funnel, and aggressively reallocating your free time. I want to leave you with this final provocative thought for today's explainer. Take a hard look at your 16 hours this week. What are you going to do with your free time tonight?